Kate, can you confirm that you hear me? Yeah, that's right. Okay then. So hello everyone. My name is Gosia Szypulska and I'm the past chair for the Southeast branch. I'll be hosting today's presentation. I would like to welcome you all and our speaker, Holger Kessler, to today's webinar hosted by the Southeast branch and the Midlands branch. So Holger Kessler is Geoscience Technical Adviser working with Geospatial Commission. Before we start today, I would like you all to mute your microphones and turn off your cameras, because it helps with the quality of the call. And the last thing, I think this session is being recorded and it's going to be posted on Pipeline Industry Guild YouTube channel. And also we've got a chat kind of on this call where you can post your questions or comments. All the questions will be answered in the end of presentation. So over to you, Holger, then. You on mute.
We are in 2022 and we're still doing what we did 3 years ago. Yes, sorry. Thanks for having me. We were just discussing a moment ago. This feels like a little bit Groundhog Day. I gave a seminar from home in lockdown, probably early 2020. So thanks for having me back. And I just wanted to make sure, so thanks to the Pipeline Guild, but also to make sure you know that Tim Over, who's in the call, is also here from the NUAR team. He is one of the engagement leads at Atkins, who are the lead supplier of the build phase. So this talk contains some information. Most of the information is publicly available and a link will be shared after. I will give a live demo of the current platform, which is a little bit new for you. And we have a couple of slides provided by Amy Mannerfield, who is our head of data transformation, to go into a little bit more detail about the data model and the data transformation side of things. But yes, so for some of you, this might all be completely new. I hope not. I hope NUAR is widely known about now, but for some of you, this might be a little bit repetitive, so apologies, but I will try and go through the slides as quick as possible so we get to the demo. And also what I'm looking forward to most are a discussion via the chat and some questions. So we are actually today all together in the Geospatial Commission. We're having our team day and followed by a little bit of Christmas lunch. So I am in Canary Wharf in our head office here, and we are 50 or so people, around 10 data specialists. We have finance economists. We have a whole mixture of people, project managers, and we're spread between Canary Wharf in London, Manchester, and Bristol office. And we were formed as an expert committee in the Cabinet Office to oversee some of the government contracts in geospatial, for example, to provide the nation with ordnance survey data for public sector use. Also looking at skills and capabilities, at innovation, and putting out policy papers on, for example, ethics or the use of geospatial data in EV charge point and transport. And then under the mission 2, there providing access to better location data, we picked up the buried assets, the underground space as a key topic back in 2018 when I first joined here. My background is I'm a geologist. I work for the British Geological Survey. I was seconded in 4 years ago to support the research phase of NUAR, and then eventually ended up with the role being stakeholder engagement and comms lead. So it's worth actually on that slide, I was just going to say we have a very good website with actual current and live and good information on gov.uk, and important for you at the moment, we have another week or so left with our strategy refresh consultation. So why we need NUAR? We have a lot of buried pipes and cables. We occasionally, we don't know exactly how many times, but the number is 60,000. We have very poor evidence of how that number was sourced. We hit them, we strike them, we pull, like here, Virgin Media cables out of the ground with a piling rig. The data is in many different organizations, in many different formats, but it's already a mandation. We have the new Road and Streetworks Act and the Transport Scotland Act to that data should be shared. It's just not stipulated how the data is shared. So we are proposing, we are building, we're building now the live platform, which I'll show in a moment, of the underground asset register, which will be live for Northern Ireland, Wales and England. Scotland do have the Vault system under the Transport Scotland and the Independent Scottish Roadworks Commissioner. So we're streamlining the way data is shared. We're not making the data immediately any more accurate or better. We are just gathering the data, standardizing it, holding it securely and making it accessible via a live interactive digital platform, browser-based, but obviously used to be used in the back office and in the field. And importantly, we will allow data observation feedback from the field, from the dig site, should there be an unidentified object or you find that something is in the wrong place. There will be a feedback loop to the asset owners from the field. So we're looking at incremental data improvement. We have built on a lot of evidence, going back sometimes decades, initiatives both in London and sometimes across the country, and including our colleagues up in Scotland. There's a screen capture here of the Vault platform. But we've also looked a lot at our international evidence. Here is a picture of the Belgium system. We had Project Iceberg. We had the Northumbrian Water Group Innovation Festival. We had Project Hades in London. And we've hoovered up all the evidence that existed, did a pilot phase, which has come out with our own evidence and reports. Then we built the business case to Treasury and started the preparation phase for that in 2020 and launched the build phase in September 2021. But really the important message of this slide is we did not just cook up something completely new here in isolation. We built on existing evidence, both what works and what doesn't work, and we had very well-founded user communities who really wanted this to work. So the beneficiaries are these sort of user groups, the asset owners and operators themselves, in terms of getting more efficiencies in the data sharing, on the data sharing side. We've also have anecdotal evidence from places such as Colorado, where we recently visited, where asset owners are reporting that it was good for their internal IT and data standards procedures, because we are, as I said, harmonizing the data for the platform. We have the planners, excavators, I mentioned data managers, plant protection officers, and of course, in the end of the day, as everything we're trying to do is has societal and environmental benefit as well as economic benefit, because we have reduced delays, reduced trips to and from site, and just generally a more efficient and smarter way of working. We have released the economic case completely unredacted and open on gov.uk, so I invite you to look at that. And we are coming up with a £350 million per year savings as a combination from efficiency, reduced strikes and reduced delays. And you can take a look. We've built on a lot of research by the Utility Strike Avoidance or statistics by USAC, Utility Strike Avoidance Group, University of Birmingham, and all our partners and friends internationally, as well as carrying out our own surveys and pieces of evidence into the as-is processes. We are literally signing the contracts now. We have just done a little tender to commission some work to establish a better baseline of asset strikes, as I said, and near misses. As I said on the previous slide, the number of 60,000 is extremely iffy and unsupported, really, and very old. So so we are commissioning some work very soon to get a better baseline figure. I've already been through the timeline. The key here is we're going operational in March 23, which is only 3 months away. And we will have there in those 3 areas an operational platform that can be used for business as usual processes by the asset owners and undertakers who have, of course, signed our legal framework. And in September 2024, that's the end game. We will be operational for the rest of Northern Ireland, for the rest of England and Northern Ireland, working very closely, and I'm very proud of our relationship with the Transport Scotland and the Scottish Roadworks Commissioner, working very closely on alignment in terms of the symbology and the data model and the color scheme of the 2 platforms, so that we have over time potential alignment, or as much as alignment as possible, as we have, of course, operators, asset owners, and contractors and consultants working across the border. So a quick couple of slides on the data side. We do have a very close cooperation with the Open Geospatial Consortium, and we're building on the core OGC MUDI model, which is published as a candidate model. It is an open source data model, and we're creating an UK excavation profile, and on top of that, the NUAR platform model. So we are making some modifications that are driven by our user community to the OGC MUDI model, and you can see some of the features there that we're adding. So, for example, PAS 128 survey values, methods of laying pipes and cables will be added, and also grouping of assets within other assets. This is to do with the special use case where we're deploying, for example, maybe fiber optic cables inside existing assets such as sewers, and potentially one day even in freshwater pipes. So important here is we're not inventing again a new wheel. We are building off a existing international standards and modifying it as for our special user community. The extract, transform, and load process. Just a quick slide so you can see how we work here. We have a very iterative approach. So this is in the build phase. We are able to talk to asset owners on a one-to-one basis. We carry out data workshops where the team from Atkins and One Spatial, I'll go through our supply chain in a moment, but One Spatial is mainly responsible for this process. We're having one-to-one conversations, bespoke conversations with all 650 plus asset owners, and make sure that we walk people through the process. So it's not just put your data into a black box and you never hear from us again. So data analysis is going to be carried out. We then have a harmonized NUAR data model. We transform the data, and we then communicate at all stages back with the asset owner and operator. There is then a sign off, effectively an agreement, which we call data ingestion specification, that the asset owner says, yes, my data looks as I imagine it. We also give back the transformation algorithms or workbenches so that asset owners can carry out that work repeatedly in the future, because we are looking at a minimum 90-day refresh rate. I should also say here, we are also very interested in asset owners not only doing manual repeated uploads of data, but we're also, of course, looking into APIs and web map services or web feature services. And then the data is ingested to the NUAR database, and once all legal agreements are in place, we will then be able to publish that data to all other asset owners and operators who have signed the legal agreements. So all the time we're trying to keep the burden for the organizations as low as possible, the entry bar as low as possible, especially in the build phase. So as we have the money and the resources from central government to support. So we currently have a call for action out for national engagement. So hopefully this seminar and reaching out to your community will help. Now is the time to engage with the data teams and get your data looked at, transformed and loaded. I will give the live demo at this stage so you can just see what we have so far got. We have the map interface, we can navigate, we can search, we can display and query asset data. So you just have to give me a quick moment. Security is at the heart of is baked into the NUAR program. So we have, as you can see, double authentication enabled. So you do need phone reception. I luckily have 5G. It's almost unbelievable. 2, 4, 1. You can see the look and feel is very much like other gov.uk websites you're familiar with. We have an enormous amount of work has gone into the back office. I was on the site this morning following the latest sprint review, sprint 23, I think it was, where we saw a lot of work in the back end, the authentication and authorization of users in terms of role-based access, because the next couple of weeks before Christmas will be extremely exciting, a massive milestone for the team. We are giving the tool that you now see with real data into the hands of the first 40 or 50 users in all 3 areas, but not only asset owners, but we will start to actually push the tool down into the supply chain. So that's an exciting moment, and therefore, of course, at this very moment, the back end and the security is, of course, very important, probably more important than how much data we've actually got loaded in the front. But to give you a quick view in, unsurprisingly, we have an Ordnance Survey master map base map in the background. I'm now looking for a little file which I thought I'd put on my desktop in that corner, but I haven't. I'm looking for a little file called coordinates, and annoyingly, it is not there. Tim, if you could paste those coordinates where the latest map data is into the chat, that would be amazingly helpful. If not, I'll have to have a little search. So, in fact, I've still got them.
Holger, I've just pasted
those in. Thank you. Oh, hello, Teresa. Teresa is all nice to see you or hear you. Teresa is also here from Team Atkins, also involved on the engagement side. Great tag teaming there. So we have the Ordnance Survey base map. We have a search bar which we can search on address, postcode, and also eastings and northings. So this is a place where we have some better looking sample data in place. So I can either draw a circle of interest or a polygon that retrieves the data off the database, and you can then do the usual as you can with any geographic information system. You can zoom, you can pan, you can switch layers off and on. This is not the latest release. Can't wait to see the legend emerge, but I have seen in the dev side, legends are emerging, but for now you still only see the writing here, but you can see we can switch layers off and on. We can query layers. This is where the data model will be exposed, so you can sort of see the very limited data we're actually asking from operators, because we are keeping the bar of entry very low. So we're only asking really for the location, the XY, for the asset type, the voltage, pressure, the owner, and a contact number. And if you do have depth, and there is also an indication of confidence, so we're looking at the PAS classification. So at the moment, all this will be confidence PAS level, survey level D. And that's pretty much all we are requiring. Supplementary data is if you've got cross-section drawings, we can attach drawings to a little tag and expose that also through the platform. So this is really all for here. In fact, I'll just do one more thing. I'll just show you the polygon feature, and you can see here, if you go beyond a certain size, you will be stopped. So this is all to do with our security-minded approach to make sure we have ticked all the boxes of both the commercial concerns that some asset owners have about exposing too much, and also concerns by our colleagues in the Centre for the Protection of National Infrastructure and also the National Cybersecurity Centre, to say we are only exposing as much as you need for a particular job. Because important to remember here, this is not a tool for regional EV charging, EV charge point planning, or for regional flood risk modeling. This is a tool which at its absolute core is for getting to site safely, excavating and planning a dig. Cool. So I can see some interesting questions coming in. I've only got about 4 slides left, so if you're okay, I will let you continue to paste those. A final thing for you to see up here, this is the emerging functionality, how to share this map view with your teams in the field. So you simply create a URL which you can then send out to members of your team who have also got the appropriate approvals, of course, and the appropriate access. So you cannot, in fact, I can take that question from Kostya now. It will only all be available, everything you see so far, to authorized users of the platform. Okay, so we are, and those are the people the organizations who sign up to the data distribution agreement. So these are all utilities, all highways authorities, network rail, national highways, anyone who owns and operates buried asset in telco, gas, electricity, district heating, and so on. In fact, that sort of goes a little bit into James's question, which I might actually just weave into here. We are absolutely not intending to replace any existing commercial services. There will be still a large ecosystem in place for the company you mentioned there and many others. But at the same time, yes, we are trying to have 100% of all known operators and owners of underground assets on the platform. They do exclude, and this is where it does get interesting regarding that question, they do exclude private property and private land owners. So, for example, irrigation system on some farm in North Norfolk are not part of NUAR, and we also are not including at the moment places like university campuses. We are, however, talking to ports, airports, and power stations, but it is not going down to the sort of level of a university campus's heating system and cabling. And the size of the searchable area at the moment is 100 by 100 meters for field use and 250 by 250 meters for office-based activities. So yes, and I was just actually I was going to mention just briefly on the terms and conditions. I should have done that at the start. Absolutely key to remember in all of this is that we are not replacing health and safety guidance 47 and all good work practices either from the health and safety executive or your own internal ways of working. This is simply replacing the process of getting the data from source to where it's needed in a standardized, interactive and digital format. So all safe digging working practices remain in place. Cool. So only a few slides left. Participation progress by the 23rd, and it's nice to see that even in a couple of weeks, the numbers are actually still increasing. So we have engaged with over 250 asset owners and operators. When I say we, that is largely Teresa and Tim and the team. We have about, I think Teresa said about eight or 10 full-time equivalent members of the team on this job. We have signed many data exploration agreements. They give us access, they give Atkinson One Spatial access to data for trial. But importantly here, we have now over, the latest figure is now 84, I think, from this morning, of these data distribution agreements signed. And we are really pleased to say that they are representing all sectors, from very small rural local authorities to London boroughs, to major transport agencies, Transport for Wales, also water, gas, electricity, and some telco companies. So the important thing here is absolutely this is probably one of the biggest pieces of work, getting the legal agreements acceptable to each asset owner and operator, and also getting them accepted by Treasury, because clearly they do contain the good old topic of liability. But we're seeing that 80 out of 600, so a good 15% of asset owners have been through the legal text and have agreed. So that's a really good news story. And those are the areas, just to remind you, where I've seen some people on the call some people in the supply chain are on the call. These are the areas where you can talk to your clients in April next year and say, okay, Northumbrian Water Group, what does this platform look like, and how is this going to make my job just that slightly bit more 21st century? So a quick future slide is all about we have published a consultation on our website. We are in there being very open, that quite a lot of you have replied to say that you believe that legislation is required, and we have precedent here up in Scotland. We're working closely with Transport Scotland to see how the Transport Scotland bill is progressing. It's being implemented in 2023. So we are still looking at exploring potential legislative reform. We have launched the test service, as I mentioned, not only with a handful, but now with 10 handful of users in the coming weeks. So we're really excited about that. And yes, we have issued what we call the national, what we call the national call for engagement. We are now open to any local authority, gas, electricity, water company from across the United Kingdom, bar Scotland, to engage and go through the onboarding, data exchange and data sharing agreement process with us. In fact, a visit is planned. If we have friends from Northern Ireland, a visit is planned on the 12th to start our first face-to-face engagement, which I'm really pleased about, through our partners in the infrastructure sector and department, and also Ordnance Survey Northern Ireland. That's happening in a week's time. We are working with, I hope you've heard, with a wide range of stakeholders, but just to make sure that you all have confidence that we are working with all across Whitehall with the relevant departments, in particular in the 5G, in the EV, in the EV charge point, in OZEF, to make sure we don't overburden, in particular, local authorities with too many requests for the same data. We have extremely good links to CPNI and NCSC. Without their advice and without following their good practices, there would be no NUAR, as we are clearly sharing a critical national asset. We're working always with Health and Safety Executive, are informed, and as I said, we're not taking away, we're not changing any practices here. I've mentioned the OGC and Transport Scotland. And then here we have Atkins and our supply chain. So we've awarded the contract a year ago to Atkins, who then built Ordnance Survey, who are predominantly on the platform development with Atkins, and One Spatial, who have the expertise in the data transformation side. And we're supported also massively supported by the Greater London Authority in terms of stakeholder engagement across the Greater London, and also, I should say, by lots of other local authorities, Greater Manchester Combined Authority, Welsh Government, and as part of that, an organisation called GeoPlace, who already fulfil a great service here by doing the management and gathering of street names and unique property and street reference numbers. So we're working with GeoPlace on stakeholder engagement and outreach as well. We're engaging with most professional bodies, such as yourselves, through webinars like this, and we also work closely with our industry international partners. As I've mentioned, we have a European network with all other NUAR-like organizations, which is extremely helpful to make sure we don't walk into some sort of blind alley, keep our eyes open on developments international and in academia. And of course, we talk to a lot of users, and increasingly we'll be doing so with a live platform with real data. We've got some nice quotes. There are loads more quotes on our website, but yeah, particularly outstanding quotes there from Heidi, who's one of those chief executives who we need, who got the message very early on that this will actually just bring a lot of benefit in terms of safety and efficiency to Northumbrian Water Group. But we have, yeah, a lot of good support out there in industry, and we're really grateful to help us that we got as far as we did. There is a barcode there, a QR code there that will take you to the how to get involved page. As I said, get involved, chats, questions now in the chat, but also take a look at our at the GC website. It does actually have significant amount of good and up-to-date information, and yeah, follow us on Twitter and the usual. So thanks for listening, and I'll see what has happened in the chat.
Thank you very much, Holger. Very interesting presentation and music to my ears. I'm heavily involved in utilities, and to anyone who is working with those utilities, because we all know how important it is to understand where they are really before we start any work. So it is absolutely fantastic idea. So thank you for this presentation. You've answered a couple of questions already, but there are a few more. So there is one, a 90-day refresh of the platform seems quite a lengthy time frame for updating the data. Are there plans to shorten this?
Great question. This is, I believe, the legal minimum in, I think, the Streetworks Act. However, we are, of course, happy to take data as frequently as possible. And that sort of links to the answer to what I said earlier. We are talking to a number of organizations about providing web services. So that would then be effectively a minute by minute or maybe every 50-minute live update. So absolutely, that's the minimum.
Wow, that is great. Another question, is there any ambition to have two levels of access, one for the public and one for industry?
Yeah, so this is a great question. At the moment, there are no plans for public access. So it will be one system for the others you mentioned there, for client, consultants and contractors, and they will be tiered. So the administrator in Yorkshire Water will have access for the back office for the entire Yorkshire Water operational area. A contractor who works on King Street in York will probably get access only for a certain duration for a certain geofenced area of the town. So there are tiers there, but there's no immediate plans for access to give the public access. However, there are discussions, but these are not plans. There are discussions to use obfuscation. So we are thinking about creating maybe some outputs like heat maps of density of assets, which might be of use to some communities. And of course, there are discussions in the distant future. You could envisage asset owners or property owners to get access, very limited access to maybe the footprint of their property, because of course there are unmapped assets on private land, as we all know, house connections and so, but not in the current plan up to 2024.
Right, because like, look, one of the other questions which will be associated with wider access, that will be, of course, I imagine, security issues. So there was a question posted by me earlier on. What are the security issues with sharing this data?
Yeah, great. So I'm grateful for that question, so I can make the point, elaborate on that point a bit more. The security aspects, both in terms of national critical infrastructure security, in other words, misuse of the data for malicious reasons, as well as the security in terms of commercial security, is at the absolute heart of the data distribution agreements, which stipulate the end user terms and conditions. So the entire legal framework, as well as the platform build itself. So where is it hosted? What are the security protection, penetration testing, auditing? So we're looking, the back office will be audited by the operating organization of NUAR, which will have involvement of the security services. We also have the restricted access at the front end that I showed. We also don't allow any outbound APIs or web services, which is a question that usually comes in the chat as well. We are not allowing download from NUAR. If you want data to be downloaded, you have to talk to the asset owners individual, because the risk for national security concerns is this aggregated layer. We will have every single pipe and cable in every part of the United Kingdom, and therefore hugely important to keep the stuff secure only for the people who need it. Hence, the question about the public is not currently on the table, because the question really is always from CPNI, the Centre for Protection of National Infrastructure, is we always need to ask the question, why? Does a member of the public need to see where all of London's fibre optic cables are going from the city all the way into the stock exchange and then out into the sea? They probably don't. Should they maybe see where their sewage connection is at the adjacent to their property? Maybe that's a question we could talk about one day. But yeah, security is absolutely baked in.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for answering. Are there any other questions?
Okay. Yeah, Tim, I mean, do you want to just talk over a couple of those questions? I'm happy for you to have the mic if you want to elaborate on some of those.
I was more interested in James' query about widening the search area. I think there's a limitation on the search area for obvious reasons, but I was interested just to get a bit of feedback on a normal project area or area of interest.
Yep. I would like, James, if you don't feel pressured to do this now, but it would be great to pick that up. The 100 by 100 and 250 by 250 were set with the current user community from the pilots. We're talking about 20 to 50 people. That they're not fixed. They can easily be, well, they can be altered in discussion with end users. So yeah, it'd be nice to know a bit more there. Yeah, agreed.
I can see James has got hands up. You've got a question, James?
Yeah, I suppose it's just coming on the back end of my question there. I think so what typically we do is we normally go online search and we provide an area, and it can be any size area in reality, and it normally sort of follows. I work for Thames Water, so we typically do pipeline schemes, both sewer, obviously, and clean. And what we'll normally do is do our search area, and it could be a very large corridor, it could be anywhere from 100 meters down the road to a full-blown 50-kilometer pipeline scheme. So we then get a huge amount of data back, obviously from the different sort of utility companies. And what would be fantastic if this could come almost like a one-stop shop, and it could almost do what line search does, but you can automatically see all of the utilities that you're going to be impacting. So if we could ever get to that sort of point, I mean, certainly I think you raised some very valid questions from a security perspective. But I think if we could increase the search area to sort of 1-2 kilometers, at least gives us a better idea sort of what we're working with.
I'm delighted. A really great conversation, and James, you are one of the pioneers as in Thames Water. Of course, you know Carl Simmons and Joe Hall, and now Lawrence. You are right in the middle of it. You will probably be one of the first 50. I haven't got the list in front of me, but you're most likely to be one of the first real world users with real data. Please feed this in, because if the back office task requires, I don't know, 500 by a kilometer, well, it just needs to be put on into the discussion. Important here is so that the current system that you're using will be you will be able to see who owns and operates assets. You will be able, if you're in the back office, you'll also be able to make several requests, but I'm not fully into the, we are basically obviously preventing scraping. That will automatically be blocked. But of course you are able, with the right user access and the right role, to make maybe several requests to get a larger overview. But anyway, definitely please be active and feed that back once you get hold of the tool.
I think really this platform can really transform and speed up the process and the way we work in utilities. I'm heavily involved in utilities, and this is normally first information we request, and normally it takes long time. So it is absolutely fantastic. I'm really looking forward to kind of like use it in the near future. So I'm looking, there are no more questions. So thank you very much, Holger. Absolutely fascinating. And it's really good news to the whole industry. So
yeah, very kind for you to say so. We think so too. But as I always say, we're not just open to praise, we're also open to constructive criticism. So if any of you have concerns, you pick up anything else that we should know about, we are open, both through the Atkins engagement team that are regularly talking to you all, but also I'm on LinkedIn. We've got a generic email. Tell us what's not good as well as
what would be the best contact to feedback?
Yeah. Okay, I will. On my last slide, let me just well, Tim and Teresa, you could put your contacts into the chat as well, I suppose, but I'll just find our so on our homepage, we have, so our generic inbox is Geospatial Commission at Cabinet Office, and every single email here will be handled within seconds. But Tim, Teresa, and myself, we are all very visible, and yeah, you can get in touch directly.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you very much all for joining and listening to us today. And thank you, Holger, for finding time to present to us today.
Yeah.
So, here we
business.
go. Very Christmas spirit here.
Right then, all.
So I don't think there are more questions. If there are any, we'll pass it on to you, Holger, and then we'll answer them offline. Last but not least, thank you very much for really to HQ for organizing this presentation and facilitating. And that's that. So thanks again to everyone and have a lovely afternoon.
Superb.